I'm Alex Loxton and I present documentaries over on History Hit TV. If you're passionate about all things history, sign up to History Hit TV. It's like Netflix but just for history. We've got hours of ad-free documentaries about all aspects of the past. You can get a huge discount from History Hit TV. Make sure you check out the details below and use the code ABSOLUTEHISTORY, all one word, when you sign up. Now, on with the show.
How do human beings find their way around their planet? How do they know what lies beyond the sea, or where a road leads? Did Marco Polo have an atlas to show him the route to China? Did the Romans record the borders of their empire on maps? For thousands of years, unknown distant lands guarded their secrets. And yet they were described in travel books and imaginative maps. The face of the world has fascinated people in every age and culture. At the point where the sun goes down, the world of the Europeans comes to an end. There, out on the wild Atlantic, lurks the threat of the edge of the world. Medieval seafarers distrust the open sea. They hug the coast, navigating by prominent cliffs, trees, or mountains. They have neither measuring instruments nor accurate sea charts which could show them the way. The profitable trade with the distant Orient is carried on more safely overland. Christian Europe has a firmly established picture of the world. Above the earth curves the sky, and from heaven God rules the fate of mankind. At the geographical center of the Christian world lies Jerusalem. Jerusalem the Gold is the spiritual center and thus the center of the earthly world. But again and again, this divine world order is put into question by other peoples and religions. Islam is a new and expanding power, and like Christianity, its adherents are inspired to convert the world. Islam and its warriors conquer North Africa, the Near East, and Holy Jerusalem. The Islamic conquerors destroy ancient empires like that of Byzantium. The Byzantine capital, Constantinople, has long withstood the attacks of the Islamic invaders. But in 1453, the once powerful city can hold out no longer. More than 1,000 years after its founding, the walls of Constantinople are brought down. For Venice, this means the loss of a powerful trading partner. Suddenly, the future looks uncertain. But other European powers will seek to find new routes to the wealth of Asia.
Der Einfall der Mongolen hat den Europäern die
The
Seidenstraße.
invasion of the Mongols opened the Silk Road to Europeans. The collapse of the Mongol Empire closed it to them again. But by then, Europeans had acquired an appetite for goods and merchandise of the Orient. So they looked for new routes to the Far East. In the 15th century, the Portuguese king Henry the Navigator sent out his sailors, his surveyors, and his explorers to find a route around Africa to the east. A short time later, there were reports of someone else who was searching for a route by sailing west. Sailing west in order to land in the east, Columbus. And indeed, this was how the route to China was actually discovered, how the world was explored and even understood. The world as a globe, the world as a huge picture in which Europe was just a tiny fragment.
Bei dem Europa nur ein kleiner Fortsatz war.
Henry the Navigator, King of Portugal, feeds his hunger for gold in North Africa. His soldiers invade the North African city of Ceuta. This is to be the starting point for the search for the legendary gold treasures of the African interior. But the Portuguese find their way barred by a sea of sand. Only the nomads can find their way through the desert. No European can survive here. So Henry orders new routes to be found to Africa and Asia by sea. Henry the Navigator never goes to sea himself. In his name, seafarers venture out into the unknown Atlantic Ocean and explore the coastlines of undiscovered worlds. But these maritime explorers are not just looking for the way to the east or discovering sources of gold and silk. They are also to take possession of new lands. So, wherever they set foot on shore, they plant the cross, signaling the claim to rule of their prince and financial sponsor, Henry the Navigator.
Im Jahr 1434 umsegelt der portugiesische Seefahrer Gilles Eanes.
In 1434, the Portuguese mariner Gilles Eanes is the first to sail around the dreaded Cape Bojador on the coast of the Western Sahara. A triumph for Henry the Navigator, who for 2 decades had been systematically fitting out expedition after expedition to explore the west coast of Africa. To this end, he established a school of navigation and an arsenal on the rocky headland of Sagres by Cape St. Vincent, the southwestern extremity of Europe. It's difficult to find sources proving the existence of this school. But it's a fact that with the means available to him as Grand Master of the Order of Christ, Henry was able to promote and finance systematic voyages of exploration by the Portuguese.
The nautical school in Sagres on the Atlantic coast of Portugal is an international research center. At Henry's command, Arabian, Jewish, and Italian astronomers and cartographers prepare for the first European voyages of exploration. The only sea charts currently in existence are more the products of human imagination and utterly useless for navigation. So sailing on the open sea is a high-risk adventure. Only with accurate charts would Henry's captains have a chance of finding the sea route to the east. In Sagres, the observations and experiences of mariners are recorded and collated. From their descriptions and information emerge the first sea charts. With every voyage, the charts become more accurate. With every voyage, the picture of the world changes.
Als Heinrich der Seefahrer seine Forscher ausschickte,
When Henry the Navigator sent out his explorers, there were no maps they could use. They had to record every item of navigational information. They had to know how to measure wind direction, compass bearings, distances between points, distances sailed per day, and then how to transfer that data to a chart. In this way, a series of charts was produced, but sadly, in the 18th century, they were all destroyed in the Great Fire of Lisbon. As a result, we don't know in detail every single stage in the exploration of the world, those early steps taken by the Portuguese. Even so, they marked the beginning of global exploration by the Europeans.
Now equipped with the charts provided by the Sagres school, the Portuguese advance further and further along the African coastline. They discover completely unknown worlds. On their return to Sagres, what they have seen and described is evaluated and recorded on new charts and maps. On the African coasts, they find no gold at first, but they do encounter other human beings who appear strange to the European invaders. Instead of gold, human beings now become the booty and are transported back to Europe. This is the beginning of a new chapter in an old history, the history of slavery. It will cost the lives of millions and make others rich in a trade lasting for centuries. More than 50 ships sail along the African coast under Henry's flag. In 1444, one of Henry's dearest ambitions is achieved. Thanks to their voyagings and their maps, the Portuguese now find direct access to Africa's gold. The dominance of the Arabian gold traders has been broken. Until now, the Arabs have enjoyed a clear superiority over the Europeans who are so far away from their own environment. For centuries, the Arabs have been just as much at home on open sea as in the trackless desert. Their ships ply regularly between Arabia and India, bringing back rare spices and precious materials. The secret of their success lies in the Arabian Sea Charts. These depictions of the known world, with their exactly plotted trade routes, are an invaluable advantage. Arabian sea captains are holding the world in their hands long before the Europeans. In the Middle Ages, the Chinese are as technically advanced as the Arabs. At a time when a sea voyage in Europe is still a risky adventure, fleets of Chinese junks equipped with accurate charts and compasses are spreading out over the high seas. It sounds unbelievable, but China is well on the way to discovering the world, while the Portuguese are taking their first uncertain steps.
In eben dem Jahr, in dem Gilles der portugiesische Seefahrer Cap Bojador,
in the very year that Captain Gilles Eanes doubles Cap Bojador and signals the beginning of Portuguese expansion, in just this year, the Emperor's court in Peking forbids further exploration by Chinese mariners. Previously, the Chinese sea captain, Cheng He, had voyaged as far as the east coast of Africa and the Persian Gulf. But the imperial court was not interested, and so prevented the world from being discovered by China. Now the way was open for the Portuguese, a way that over many decades would take them along the coast of Africa down to the southernmost tip, the Cape of Good Hope, discovered by Bartholomew Dias, and onwards to India. In 1498, the Portuguese mariner Vasco da Gama dropped anchor at Calicut. Now the way was open for a thriving trade between Asia and Europe, the Carrera de India.
Almost 80 years have passed since the founding of the School of Navigation in Sagres. Hundreds of sailors have lost their lives to the Atlantic. Ships are lost. but every crew that returns brings valuable information. The charts become increasingly accurate. Now the captains know the routes along the coast of Africa. The great breakthrough is imminent. Vasco da Gama is the first European to sail round the Cape of Good Hope. The sea route to India has been discovered. In May 1498, after a voyage of many weeks, he reaches Calicut in India. The picture of the world is growing clearer. Europe has just moved a little closer to distant India.
When Vasco da Gama
rounded Africa and landed in India, a new epoch began for the Europeans. It wasn't just that they'd confirmed their world picture, and confirmed it by experience, that the world was round, that you could reach every point on it by ship. Now they began to establish colonies in Asia, in East Asia. And these colonies then had an effect on the mother countries. They became colonial powers. They competed with each other to acquire the most, the biggest, the richest colonies. And in this way, a new epoch began that only came to an end in the 20th century.
In Sagres, the cartographers systematically evaluate the unique knowledge brought back from the voyages of discovery. Without maps, Portugal's rise to the status of a colonial power is unthinkable. Only possession of the increasingly rare sea charts can open up the safe route to the Far East, to wealth and power. So the charts are worth more than gold and are kept under lock and key. Outside the School of Navigation, they are known only to the ship's captains, and only one copy may be carried on board. Portugal's political rivals pay thieves to steal the charts. Venetian merchants and Spanish nobles lay out vast sums of money for stolen examples of the unique charts. The Portuguese charts of this period are lost, in fires in the archives or by sheer use on board ship. Portugal has one major rival, Spain. The Spaniards too are searching for the sea route to India. They too are dreaming of silk and spices, of gold and slaves. And they too are driven by the lust for power and wealth. An Italian mariner offers to find a route. Christopher Columbus, a native of Genoa. Since the Earth is round, all you need to do is sail to the west, and sooner or later you'll reach India, is his solution. It takes some time before he can put his plan into action. Geographers cast doubts on his calculations. In their opinion, Columbus stands no chance of ever reaching India. They prophesy that the long voyage will end with the crew dying of hunger and thirst. But finally, investors are found to finance the voyage to the riches of India. In 1492, 3 small ships put to sea. While the Portuguese continue to sail along the coast of Africa in search of gold, Columbus heads due west. The voyage takes 12 weeks. Then Columbus lands in India, or so he believes for the rest of his life. For as he sees it, only the Atlantic lies between Europe and India. In the years to come, Columbus makes further voyages to his India. He refuses to acknowledge that he has discovered an unknown land. Numerous seafarers follow in his wake. It's a long time before the certainty hardens that a whole new continent has been discovered.
Bei seiner Rückkunft begegnete Kolumbus im Hafen von Lissabon dem portugiesischen König Dom João II.
On his return, Columbus met the Portuguese king, Dom João II, in Lisbon Harbour. In contrast to Columbus, who didn't realize the importance of his discovery, and never would, Dom João had a very clear understanding of the importance of the discovery of America. The result was a treaty between the throne of Portugal and the throne of Castile, the Treaty of Tordesillas, signed in 1494, according to which a line was drawn from north to south across the Atlantic, about 2,100 kilometers west of the Azores and the Cape Verde Islands. All newly discovered lands west of this line were to belong to Spain, all those east to Portugal. So the world was divided. The Portuguese were left with the discovery of Africa and the sea route to India, indeed to Asia. To the Spaniards, the way to America now stood open, mainly Southern and Central America, and the growth of a vast colonial empire in the New World.
The New World brings undreamt-of riches to impoverished Spain. The Church adorns itself with stolen gold. The worldly rulers use stolen gold to purchase political power. There are now regular shipments of gold and silver from America to Europe in incredible quantities. What the Europeans take with them to America is, for the indigenous peoples there, fatal. The population is decimated by hitherto unknown diseases. Hundreds of thousands of Indios perish, slaving away in gold and silver mines. The gold of the Incas is brought across the Atlantic by ships sailing the charted routes with pinpoint accuracy. In Europe, gold and silver from America causes inflation. But in the final analysis, Europe profits from the New World, and the indigenous high cultures are destroyed.
When Columbus set foot for the first time on the islands of Central America, he definitely believed he had landed in the Old World, in India, or even in China. He didn't know that he had discovered a new continent. Nonetheless, people had to be able to find their way around. This meant giving names to these newly discovered islands, and names were chosen from the home country, names the sailors had brought with them. So one part was called New Spain. New Amsterdam was the name given to a town founded by the Dutch. Later it was renamed New York, or as we know it, New York. Another name was New Virginia. So there was a series of names imported from the Old World, which were now associated with the New World. In this way, out of all these new places and lands, the New World was created.
To the poor Europeans, the New World looks like paradise. Gigantic trees, animals and fruits never seen before. All this fires the imagination of the conquerors. But where did these animals come from that apparently did not sail on Noah's Ark? Is there another, unknown creator as well as the Christian God? No, this must all have been created by God after he had finished the Old World. Thus the Church justifies the existence of the new continent. After the seventh day of creation, God went back to work and created another world, a new world. And it is now the right and duty of the faithful to rule this new world and to Christianize it. The fruits from God's new garden are tempting, nourishing, and tasty. Sweet sugarcane grows here like grass. From huge plantations, the first pure sugar reaches Europe. Labor is short in the New World. The European plantation owners buy cheap labor from Africa. The conquerors double and triple their sources of income, from sugar, by exploiting nature, and from slave trading. The maps of the world show how Europe's geographical horizon has been extended, and that the world is now seen as a sphere. Had he not been convinced of this, Columbus would never have ventured out into the Atlantic. It is at this time that the map maker, Martin Behaim, constructs the first globe. It makes the routes to the spices of the world easier to see. For interested merchants, Behaim meticulously depicts which fruits grow where and what kind of trade can be carried on there. Still missing on this first globe, the American continent.
Kolumbus hat sich Zeit seines Lebens sehr intensiv mit Ostasien beschäftigt. Kannte die Literatur
All his
im
life,
Mittelalter
Columbus was
über
deeply
Ostasien sehr
involved
genau,
with East Asia.
hat sie ausführlich studiert,
He knew
genau
very well the
kommentiert.
literature on East Asia that had appeared in the Middle
Das ist
Ages.
wahrscheinlich der Grund dafür,
He had studied
dass
it closely, written
den
extensive
Wert seiner
commentaries on it.
Entdeckung eigentlich nicht
That's
recht erkennen
probably the
konnte.
reason why he wasn't really
glaubte,
able to see the
zeitlebens bis zu
value
seinem
of his
Tod in
discovery.
Asien gelandet zu sein. Denn
To the
das
end of
war
his
das
days,
Ziel.
he believed that he'd
Danach
landed in
strebten im
Asia,
Übrigen alle späteren
because
Seefahrer
that
alle
was
nach
what he'd
Ostasien.
dedicated his life to achieving. Like all the other mariners who
Als
followed
neue
him,
Welt wurde
they
der
all wanted to get to
Doppelkontinent,
East Asia.
der von den Spaniern übrigens
As a new
Las
world, the
Indias
double
genannt wurde,
continent,
das noch bis
which
ins
by the way
18.
was called Las
Jahrhundert
Indias
hinein.
by the Spaniards well into the
Als
18th
neue
century,
Welt wurde
as a new world, the double continent
der
was probably
Doppelkontinent
discovered by Amerigo Vespucci.
wahrscheinlich von Amerigo Vespucci entdeckt. Und von daher erklärt
This
sich das
explains
zu
why the
den-
German
zu Ehren
cartographer,
von Amerigo
Martin
Vespucci,
Waldseemüller, gave the
der deutsche
continent the name
Kartograf
America
Martin Waldseemüller
in honor of
den
Amerigo
Kontinent mit dem
Vespucci,
Namen Amerika
on a map he
versah.
published in
Auf einer
1507
Karte,
in Saint-Dié
die
in the
er
Vosges.
im Jahre 1507 in Saint-Dié in den Vogesen herausgegeben hat.
But Martin Waldseemüller only gives the name America for the far-off New World to the southern half of the continent. Thousands of copies of Waldseemüller's map of the world are printed. The maps of the world revolutionized seafaring. Nautical measuring instruments such as the sextant simplify orientation on the high seas. The compass points the way to distant ports and holds the ship on the course plotted on the chart. Portuguese ships sail into Chinese harbors for the first time. Soon, European expansion will encompass the whole world. New global empires come into existence, and colonial claims on conquered territories are entered on the maps. Yet patches of white still remain. The vast expanses of the silent oceans are still unsailed. The interiors of the continents are still untrodden. Our view of the world is still incomplete.